chatting earlier about this China's reaction to global, new measurements against their travelers from China, and they have stopped issuing visas to South Koreans and Japanese. China had also talked about reciprocal actions against the United States. If this is something the White House worry about, the Chinese might implement something against U.S. Citizens.
I think the biggest part of reciprocity here is ensuring that we're all sharing enough data with the global community. And so we're hoping that we'll continue to see sharing of genomic sequences from China, that we'll see real-time data on hospitalizations and ICU admissions. I do want to remind you that China has an existing requirement for all international travelers, including those coming from the U.S., that matches what we have also put into place. So that already exists as a measure that's equal in place.
The South Korean government confirmed a Chinese tourist entered South Korea, tested positive, and then didn't comply with the local rule for quarantine and escaped and went on for a shopping trip, potentially exposed a lot of people to the COVID danger. How would you enforce what is the CDC's requirements to people who enter or similar cases like what we're seeing in South Korea?
Yeah, I want to step back, Paris, because I think it's important to note that this pre-departure testing is not meant to be punitive to individual passengers, right? What is our goal? The mounting international concern about the surges in PRC right now with COVID, but more importantly, the fact that there hasn't been transparent sharing of epidemiological data as well as genomic surveillance data. Just to give you a sense, right? It's not so much that someone is positive, it's that they are coming from an area that we don't have as much data about the type of viruses that might be circulating. So China's sharing of genomic surveillance data compared to globally what other countries are doing or regionally what's being shared is much, much lower. China shares about 1.1 sequence per million people in its population. That's compared to us. We share about 537 sequences per million. UK shares over 600 per million people in their population. Thailand, 31 sequences per million people. We need to see a lot more genomic data to get a sense of what viruses are circulating. The other thing that we haven't seen is good real-time data on ICU admissions or hospitalizations. And the reason these things are necessary is that if there is a variant of concern, lack of access to this data delays identification of those variants, and then it leaves our public health officials less prepared to respond to new variants that may arise that could increase the severity of disease. It could impact our diagnostics, our vaccines, our treatments.